What's up guys, welcome to another Honkai Star video, and today we're going to be going over the best Eidolons for free-to-play players. That is the 4-star Eidolons. Now, it's not unheard of to get 5-star Eidolons for free-to-play, but you're going to have to save up a lot of resources and pull very strategically. 4-star Eidolons are much easier to get for free-to-play, and even in these early days of the game, I already have a character at E6 and some other characters that are pretty high Eidolon levels. So without further ado, let's get into the characters and go over which Eidolons are best to aim for. First up, we have Arlan. He's not the best 4-star out there, but if you get him at high Eidolon levels, he actually can compete in terms of damage with some 5-stars. His best Eidolons to aim for are, first off, his E4, which gives him a survive mechanic. So when he's dealt a killing blow after entering battle, instead of becoming knocked down, Arlan immediately restores his HP to 25% of his max HP. This effect is automatically removed after it is triggered once or after 2 turns have elapsed. So the problem with destruction characters is that they have to have this kind of balance between having low HP, which gives them more damage, and then having them not dying. This E4 Eidolon helps solve some of those issues by giving him this revive mechanic, which helps ease some of the pressure off of your healer. And his best Eidolon, in my opinion, is his E6. Now, this is kind of hard to get, but if you pull strategically on banners, you might be able to get him all the way up to E6. This gives him a huge damage multiplier buff. When his HP drops to 50% or below, the ultimate deals 20% more damage. The damage multiplier of damage taken by the target enemy now applies to adjacent enemies as well. This increases his damage output by quite a bit and makes him on par with some 5-star damage dealers in certain cases. Next up, we have Asta, one of the better 4-star support units in my opinion. Her Eidolons to aim for are the E2, which after using her ultimate, Asta's charging stacks will not be reduced in the next turn. Her charging stacks, if you don't know what they do, she gains 1 stack of charging for every different enemy hit, and these charging stacks give attack increases your entire party up to 5 times. So the more of these charging stacks that she has, the more damage your entire team does. So the E2 essentially gives a damage buff to your entire team. Next, her E4 increases her energy regeneration rate by 15% when she has 2 or more charging stacks. And again, if you already have your E2, it's not too difficult to keep her charging stacks up, and increasing her regeneration rate will allow you to maintain uptime on her ultimate, which is really her main purpose in the team. And if you get her all the way to E6, this further enables you to keep her charging stacks up. Her E6 charging stacks lost in each turn is reduced by 1. So again, just kind of keeps your damage buffs up and helps you to keep spamming her ultimate. Next up, we've got Heng. So his E1 and E2 are pretty decent. His E1 just gives you a crit rate increase when enemies are below 50% or when enemies are greater than 50% HP. His E2 reduces talent cooldown by 1. His talent cooldown allows you to increase your win penetration. So he's just essentially just dealing more damage. But his best Eidolon, in my opinion, is the E4, which Heng uses his ultimate to defeat an enemy. He will immediately take action again. This is kind of like a mini resurgence, which is Seela's skill, which allows her to take another turn after she defeats an enemy. And Heng's E6 is okay, not the greatest in my opinion, but it does help a little bit in certain fights. So the slow stage triggered by skill reduces the enemy's speed by an extra 8%. But I think the E4, if you get him up to E4, that's kind of like his big breakpoint there. Next up, we have Herta, which a lot of people are saying is probably one of the worst 4-stars at the moment. I think her Eidolons are not that great until you get her to E6, actually, which after using ultimate, this character's attack increases by 25% for 1 turn. So this gives her the biggest damage buffs. Most of her other Eidolons just are focused on increasing the damage from her talent, which again isn't that great, which is why she isn't one of the best 4 stars out there. But if you really like Herta and want to get her all the way up to E6, that's kind of where the big damage increase comes from. Next up, we've got Hook, which in my opinion benefits quite a bit from her Eidolons. Her E1 increases skill damage by 20%, which is pretty good. Her E2 increases the duration of burn by 1 turn. I think the E4 is where a big breakpoint comes in. When her talent is triggered, there's a 100% base chance to burn enemies adjacent to the target enemy, equivalent to that of skill. So it essentially gives her like an AoE attack. And then if you get her all the way up to E6, she deals 20% more damage to enemies afflicted with burn. So if you want to use Hook as one of your main damage dealers, I'd go for E4, and then if you can, E6 is a pretty good as well. Next up, we have March 7th. So her Eidolons are not the greatest. Her E1 is maybe her first big one, where every time she's ultimate freezes a target, she regenerates 6 energy, so this allows you to spam her ultimate more and in turn freeze more enemies. But her big Eidolon, big power buff, in my opinion, comes in at the E6, where allies under protection of the shield granted by the skill restores HP equal to 4% of their max HP plus 100% at the beginning of each turn. So this essentially turns your March 7th into a healer, in addition to being a preservation unit, which if you're free to play and still lacking a second healer, this is pretty big. So if you want to use March 7th as your second healer, or maybe as like a secondary healer on one of your teams, aim for her E6. And last in this part 1 video is Natasha. So my Natasha's already at E6, but in my opinion her best Eidolons are her E1, which allows her to heal herself once per battle for free. Sometimes I always forget that this exists and kind of trigger her ultimate before I realize that she's healing herself. But yeah, if you remember that this exists, this gives her a free heal on herself, which kind of relieves some of the pressure and allows her to use her skill and ultimate on other units in your party. And then her E4, I think, is her best Eidolon, where after being attacked regenerates 5 extra energy. So this allows her to more easily spam her ultimate, which is really her main purpose on the team. If you get her all the way to E6, I don't think this really does much for you right now, probably unless you really have a really advanced account. So this increases her basic attack and deals physical damage equal to 40% of her max HP, but kind of turns her into like a hybrid healer / damage dealer maybe if you have the right gear, but I think most free-to-play players are going to be pretty far away from being able to make use of this E6. So I think E4 for free-to-play players is a good point at stopping for Natasha. So we'll go over the rest of the 4-star characters in part 2 of this next video. Thank you guys for watching and hope you guys learned something from this video. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next one.